don't we just give Francisco Gomes a second?
Oh, okay.
He's okay technically. Technologically, not a word.
Good morning, Madam Chair. We are all stand ready to go whenever you're ready.
Okay. Are we good?
Is Francisco good?
Not on camera. Can you hear us, Francisco? I think he's muted.
He is, yeah.
So do you want to go ahead and start, or?
We can skip to the Albany Avenue driveway agenda item if Francisco's going to do a presentation, so I don't want to.
Right.
Yeah. Greg, should we start with the Albany Ave discussion first?
Yeah, we can do that. That's fine.
Okay.
And give him a minute.
Okay, so I'm going to call this meeting of Community Planning and Economic Development to order. The date is October 16th, 2024. The time is 8:03. Under business items, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from 9/24/24?
So moved.
Can I have a second? Okay. And now we're going to skip a little bit on the business items to item C, and we'll come back to B, the Albany Avenue service driveway.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, everyone. So we wanted to, this is a new item for a couple of committee members and an older item for a couple of others. So 2 years ago, we had updated the committee on Albany Avenue service driveway, which is, and there are essentially 12 homes that are aligned with this driveway. So it's on the southern side of Albany Avenue, heading west towards Mountain Road. So leaving Bishop's Corner, heading west, just past Coolidge, there are 12 homes that you access these homes off of Albany Avenue through a service driveway. So you don't have direct access. So we don't have 12 homes with driveways exiting directly onto Albany Avenue. So they go through this service driveway. And this service driveway dates back to the early 70s. And even if you go back that far back, there is some history that indicated that we at some point were supposed to take over the driveway, and nothing happened for decades. So the last couple of years, we've been working with the homeowners about the possibility of taking control of the driveway. And so for the last 2 years, we've been working with the homeowners to receive the necessary agreements or the okays from them to pursue the necessary easements that are required to do this. So we are at that point right now. So presently we do plow the service driveway. So, but the driveway is in major need of repair. So, or the street, for lack of a better word, is in major need of repair. So, by us taking control of the driveway, we would be able to facilitate the repair of the street, which would include catch basins. So with that said, I'll pause there and turn things over to Greg Summer, our town engineer and co-acting director of community development. And Greg can give us a further update on as well. Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, Greg.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Rick. Greg Summer, West Hartford town engineer. So as Rick mentioned, we've been reaching out. We have received letters of intent from all of the property owners. And the reason for this was basically there's an existing storm drainage system that runs through there, through this unowned parcel of land. So the town would need to obtain that first, make sure we have the easement in place before we're able to formally move forward and accept the service driveway as a public street. So we've been working through that with the property owners. The next step would really be to set up those easements so that we could move forward with the acceptance. So the reason we wanted to really bring this to the committee today was just make sure before we advance those conversations and go down that path that we have the council's support in moving forward with that. I think in total, the estimated cost is right around 100,000 would be the as far as the improvements that would be needed should this be accepted for the town to reconstruct that roadway. As Rick mentioned, there's some storm drain catch basins that would need to be reworked. There's some sidewalk that really doesn't provide a tremendous amount of value. We're proposing to remove that given the low volume on the service driveway. The residents basically have indicated that there's just not a lot of value there and not worth the maintenance. So that removal would be part of the project. We'd also then obviously resurface the whole roadway and go back and add extruded concrete curbing. So that would total about 100,000 for that piece of it. Again, should we decide to move forward and accept the roadway, but that is our recommendation to the council. So with that, I'll pause and see if there's any questions from the committee.
Are there any questions from the committee members? Councilor Cortez?
Yeah, just a quick question. So that driveway, is it runs parallel with Albany? Is it like a little? Okay, that's all. I just wanted to get a reference of where.
Yeah, it's about almost 700 feet long, but yeah, just on the south side, kind of opposite Huntington is where that runs.
Perfect.
Councilor Walters?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Councilor Cortez, think of it as a frontage road. That's what I had to think of it. My question, though, is regarding the sidewalks. Is there a situation in the near or not terribly distant future where those sidewalks would be desirable? I can't think of any major future additions that in that area that would require them, but I just wanted to make sure we wouldn't be putting them back 10 years from now,
Right. Yeah, that's not something that we would foresee in the future. Right now, like they don't provide connectivity, and as I mentioned, the volume of the roadway is so low that most people would feel very comfortable just walking along that frontage road.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other, I think, Councilor or Deputy Mayor Winograd?
Actually, while we're in that neighborhood, and I mentioned it to Rick last month, any word on the other project down at that corner at Mountain Road? That we were going to do some stuff down there, getting rid of that sidewalk as well, and the bike lanes. That was quite a few years ago. I just haven't heard anything lately.
Yeah, so that still is on our list. We did get some grant funding to improve the intersection of Mountain and Albany Avenue. Unfortunately, we've just had some other projects that have been a little bit higher priority. So with our current staffing levels, we've had to kind of shift, and unfortunately, that project's kind of been a little bit on hold. But we do still plan to pursue that and move forward with it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Rick, did you have any, or Greg, did you have anything else on this?
No, Madam Chair. So what would happen next? Again, it's just kind of bringing everyone back up to speed since it's been a couple of years since we discussed it. So we would now pursue the easements, and you'll have an opportunity to vote on those as they come before the council in the coming months. So we'll, now that we have letters of intent from all the property owners, we can really start to move on this, which is good for those 12 residents.
Okay. With that, we can move on or move back up to item B on the agenda, which is the bicycle facility plan update.
Yes, good morning, everyone again. And Francisco's there, great. So just by way of background, the council may recall back when we started the Vision Zero planning process, we had also agreed that the timing would be right to also begin the work of creating a bicycle facilities plan. And this plan, as you'll hear, will complies with our complete streets policy and will ultimately assist us in planning and designing bicycle facilities town-wide. So not too long after we started that Vision Zero process, we engaged the services of FHI to help us with this planning. And this morning we have Francisco Gomes from FHI, who will provide us with an overview. But before I turn things over to Francisco, I will, through you, Madam Chair, turn it over to Greg Summer again, if he had any comments that he wanted to add to that. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Manager. And again, Greg Summer, West Hartford Town Engineer. Just wanted to basically explain, kind of how we got here. As Mr. Ledwith had mentioned, obviously we started this process probably almost a year ago, and it was kind of running in concert with the Vision Zero. Obviously, FHI Studio was integrally involved with that process. But we've had a couple different outreaches. We've coordinated with the Pedestrian Bicycle Commission, attended a couple of their meetings to get their input. That was obviously critical in this development of this facilities plan. We also had a public survey that was distributed to the community, so we solicited feedback from a larger audience, and actually got responses from both cyclists and non-cyclists. So that was kind of interesting to see those two varying viewpoints. We also held a public info meeting in June to present the draft of the plan, and then continued workshopping it a little bit with the Pedestrian Bicycle Commission at their July meeting, and ultimately the plan that we'll present today was endorsed by the Pedestrian Bicycle Commission during their August meeting. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Francisco Gomes from FHI Studio. He's got about 21 years of experience as a transportation planner. He's done extensive bicycle facility work, done a lot of work in Hartford, and throughout the project has been a great resource for us. So through you, Madam Chair, I'd like to turn things over to Francisco.
All right, thank you, Greg. Good morning, everyone. I will share my screen. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation per se, but I would like to walk you through the plan that we've developed and just give you a high-level overview. There's a lot of content there, so I'm not going to be able to get into a tremendous amount of detail, but I want to make sure you're oriented with the plan and what some of our concerns were as we're developing the plan. So that said, and can everyone now see my screen in the full plan? Very good. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So first of all, the town has had a plan in place for a long time, a bicycle facilities plan, but that plan is primarily a map. It's a map which identifies the corridors and preferred infrastructure along corridors throughout the town. However, there's very little guidance on how to implement that plan and on the specific design details that would go into each of those corridors. So this plan really builds upon the existing plan. We did refine and make adjustments to that bicycle network map or plan, and then we built an entire guide around that. There were a lot of concerns from residents. I think safety was the primary concern that most residents had, a combination of safety and wanting to have very robust bicycle facilities. So that was a very important balance to be achieved. Having expansive, robust bicycle facilities is not synonymous with safety. It's correlated, but it's not one and the same. So we had to pull those two issues apart. So this plan really has a very important emphasis on safety. And we spend the first several pages of the plan focusing on the various aspects of bicycle safety. So we start with an introduction. We provide some orientation as to how the guide is intended to be used. We reference, in the course of our work and in the document, we reference all of the national standards that this guide, this plan is consistent with, and that we build upon. And so there's been a lot of work done at FHWA and other entities, really exploring and experimenting with and establishing standards for bicycle facility design. It is an evolving trade. And so we've, I think, have managed to capture the best practices of the moment in this guide. The users, we understand our users range quite a bit in their level of experience. And this plan is intended to accommodate all users across the town, which is not to say we can accommodate all users on every bicycle corridor in town. So we have a network that appeals to a range of users, from children to novice users to experienced bicyclists throughout the town, but not necessarily on every corridor, because every corridor differs quite a bit in its characteristics. So we explain what that is between low stress and low risk corridors to high stress and high risk corridors. And we've developed guidance in response to those characteristics. As I mentioned, excuse me, I'm getting over a chest cold. We have a tremendous emphasis on bicycle safety and crash risk. There was, as we discovered in our engagement with the community, there's quite a bit of misperception as to where the risk actually is as a bicyclist. And so we had to dispel some myths and work with the community to understand where the risk actually is and which facilities would be safest for them to use. And so we make that case in the front of the document by referencing a lot of excellent research that has been done, and really focusing on those important risk factors. So that's what we build this plan around, is planning, designing, and building a network that is safe for a wide array of users. There's quite a bit of data that goes into, and information that goes into making decisions regarding bicycle facilities and implementing them. So we lay it all here out. It ranges from traffic volume and speed to lane configuration, right-of-way width, surrounding land uses, etc. We talk about speed as a factor. And most importantly in this process, we identify a specific process by which the town can follow to implement bicycle facilities. So this plan is really, it's a commitment on the part of the town to build out a comprehensive bicycle network. But the plan itself and the corridors it identifies and the facility types it identifies really has to be vetted on a case-by-case basis as the opportunities to provide those facilities arises. And there's a specific process that we lay out for that. That process involves engaging with the community and collecting additional data that we can't collect on a town-wide basis for the entire town, because it's really, much of this is point-in-time data. And there's a need to collect actual traffic volumes and speeds in conditions along those corridors. So we lay out the entire process here. It's a rational process by which the town can follow, and it offers the community a chance to participate in the process. And we lay out a process by which they can be informed of decisions being made or considered with respect to bicycle facilities. We've identified a range of facility types for different conditions, from acceptable facilities to recommended facilities to facilities that exceed the recommendations of this plan. And that is really based upon, this matrix is based upon Connecticut DOT standards. That FHI studio actually worked with the DOT to develop bicycle facility standards for state roadways. And the guidance that we provide, this matrix in front of you, is based upon traffic volume and speed. And that really helps us identify what type of bicycle facility is appropriate under what conditions and along what corridor. And we provide examples down at the bottom of the page. So this is, it's a very rational method. It is a very well-defined method, and it gives the town far more guidance than it had in the past with just a map alone. We've identified as one of the goals the establishment of a low-stress bicycle network across the town, and the Trout Brook Trail is a perfect example. You know, it's safe and comfortable for a wide range of users, and so we've identified that as an important spine in the town, and we've identified the potential for other corridors of that nature as well in this guide. There are a range of facility types. Many of these are already in place in the town. So for the most part, we're not introducing anything new. And those run from shared roadways to bike lanes to side paths, shared use paths, separated bike lanes. So we've provided guidance on a range of those facility types, describing what they are, the uses, the limitations, the design, specific design guidance, application. And so we've done that for each of these facility types. Signage, pavement marking standards, et cetera. So the town really has everything it needs to properly implement one of these facility types without having to refer to any other document. All those other documents, whether it's the MUTCD or other FHWA guidance, is still available to them, of course, but they really don't need, Greg and his team really don't need to look beyond this guide for what they need to plan and design these facilities. So we have got several pages for each of these bicycle facility types. You'll notice there's a lot of visuals to help communicate that information, and that comprises the bulk of the plan. In addition to these facility types, intersections really need to be handled appropriately. Most crashes occur at intersections, both automobile and bicycle crashes. And so we provide a tremendous amount of guidance on how to treat intersections. And I think that's something that's been a challenge for the town to date. They've done very well along the corridors, but the intersections are very challenging as to how you move bikes through safely and accommodate them. So we provide a tremendous amount of guidance to that effect. We've got several pages and sections with respect to intersections. So there's a lot of design guidance here, a whole section on intersection treatments, signage, pavement markings, how do you treat signals, traffic signals, and other types of accommodations needed for bicyclists at intersections. Different types of turning techniques for bicyclists, a lot of techniques that have been recently approved by FHWA or encouraged by FHWA or actually codified in the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, that's the MUTCD. And so we're capturing all of the state of the art of the practice in this document. And we've also provided guidance on crossing streets, mid-block crossing treatments. Not all crossings occur at intersections. A lot of crossings need to occur at mid-block locations for both bicycles and pedestrians. And we've provided guidance on all the best techniques. And the town's been actually very active in employing these recently, particularly the crosswalk and a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, as well as some other techniques. And there's an image of it at right, and I'm sure you've seen those around town now. In addition to intersection treatments, we address some other more complicated aspects of bicycle facility design, like contraflow bicycle lanes. It's a bicycle lane running opposing traffic on a one-way road. Paired bicycle facilities, how to address on-street parking and bicycle demand, particularly in commercial or retail areas where you have high parking turnover. Bicycle signals, bicycle fences and railings, various traffic barriers. There are now some traffic barriers being including the design of the bicycle facilities on New Park Avenue that are going to be built soon. And we document those type of facilities here. And I think we got an image of this. It's pretty similar to what is being proposed. How to treat bicycle parking, provide very specific guidance on that. There's a lot of very bad bicycle parking out there. We show what that bad parking is, and we show what the good parking looks like. And then finally, that brings us to our bicycle plan network. And that's the map. And that's for the past 10 years, that's been the limits of your bicycle plan is really that map. And so we explain the process by which we establish that network. That network and the facilities identified was really has a grounding in the Vision Zero plan. The Vision Zero plan identified priority area streets or focus area streets. We ensured that the bicycle facilities plan for those corridors were sensitive to the issues surrounding those streets, and in order to increase bicyclist safety and safety for all users. So we connect back to that Vision Zero work in this plan. And then finally, we get to the updated bicycle facilities map. So this is very similar to what you've been working with over the past 10 or so years. We did make some adjustments to the network. For the most part, we expanded it and changed some of the recommended facility types based upon the best practices and the state of the art on this. So we've provided that inventory. We list all the various corridors and the types of facilities that are recommended for those corridors. And then we've also provided a bicycle facility selection worksheet. And this is a worksheet the town can fill out as it's considering bicycle improvements to a corridor in town. And it just provides a standardized method and practice for considering a facility type, and to ensure that the PBC has been engaged in that process and endorses it. It has sign off from engineering, and that we're addressing all the other concerns along that roadway. And so we provide an example of that. So that's an overview of the bicycle facility guide and plan. And I'm happy to receive any questions or comments you might have at this point. Through the chair, of course.
Are there any questions from committee members? Deputy Mayor Winograd?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So no, this is a lot here, and thank you very much. It's
Sure.
really comprehensive, and I'm sure I'll have more questions as it goes along. Not tonight, but today, other times. But one question, what was the reception from the task force? Did you get good comments from them?
Yeah, Greg, do you want to provide an overview of we worked with them extensively throughout this process, and Greg, I don't know if you want to weigh in here.
Sure, thank you. So yes, it's a great question, and that, as I mentioned, we did work quite a bit with the PVC to address their concerns. You know, where we started off to where we got to, I think we made some good improvements, and they had some great feedback and comments for us. We didn't incorporate everything that they were looking for, but we did try to incorporate the majority of their comments. A lot of the time we spent on the matrix, that, you know, the selection of where the appropriate facilities are based on predominantly on speed and volume. So that was a large piece of this document. But I think that's important to get that right, so that we make sure that we're putting in a facility that's appropriate and can accommodate, you know, the majority of users. But to Francisco's point, making sure, you know, obviously there's some facilities that are going to apply better to the more experienced riders. There's others that'll be more suited for families and folks riding just for recreation rather than, you know, long distance rides, things of that nature. So I don't know if that answered your question or.
No, good, because I definitely see some things in here that I've heard about, and you know, we haven't really done in town a lot. I mean, certainly the green lanes, some of the I mean, I've been sort of hoping for a while to have some protected whether it's vertical or on the short blocks, you know, the modified things to put in the what do you call it, the barrier lane, you know, so those are interesting. Just one other thing, I like some of the new signage ideas. I do think, given those explanations, are helpful, that we kind of get used to the old ones and not everybody knows what they mean on sharrows and things like that. I am curious, it came up recently, the being a pedestrian issue, but it applies to bikes as well. The flashing lights that we're having at crosswalks. Apparently, people don't know that means to stop for a pedestrian. There's still an education piece on that. And I'm wondering whether or not there's some recommended signage in addition to the flashing lights to actually tell people to stop and not, you know, see, I guess that's the rule. I know you can sort of wave people down as you want to cross at any crosswalk, but I've seen people just blow through the flashing as if it doesn't apply to them. And I'm wondering whether signs there would help.
Yeah, I'm happy to start with this, and I'm sure Greg might have something to say as well. Signage is very strictly regulated through the manual for uniform traffic control devices. And so there is not, I do not believe that there is supplemental signage for crosswalks that would place a strong direct message to stop. I do know that there are placards that can be used to remind people that it's state law to stop for a pedestrian at a crosswalk. Those tend to be really small. It's small language. You almost have to want to read it. So there is the potential to, I believe, to add one of those placards for reminding of the state law requirement. But in terms of a strong visual impact, there really isn't anything to the scale of the sign itself that would direct drivers to stop. I think it speaks to the need for education, a strong educational campaign more than anything. And the Vision Zero plan does make some recommendations to that effect.
Just one more comment on that. So we did, obviously, when we rolled out recently, installed about 10 of the pedestrian warning lights, the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. We did take out an ad and did some press releases on that. And again, it's the behavioral change and it's the education. We're looking to do more of those. I think they've been well received by the community. So we are planning to install some additional head warning lights. So that's a great feedback, is that we need to do more and certainly push that out to the community, not only identifying where they are, but also how both drivers and pedestrians and cyclists should react when they see those and encounter the flashing warning lights. So,
Thank you. Further, Madam Chair.
Councillor Walters. You're muted.
My apologies. Thank you. And through you, Madam Chair. To follow up on Deputy Mayor's question there, and I don't want to belabor it, but my question is, you know, looking at these signs that beacons that have been put in place, they flash yellow, which for many people either means hurry up and go, or some might actually think it's a cautionary thing. If they were red, is that something that is not allowed, or is that something that we could switch over to as we install the new ones?
You're correct that it is not allowed.
Okay.
Yeah. And I agree, red would probably, you know, communicate a stronger message to stop. But these standards are very strict, and
Right.
The town has to strictly comply with them. Otherwise, they become liable for anything that may happen in that area because they're not compliant with the standards.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so my question was already asked. There was a lot of information in this. It's a lot to take in and go through. So I'm sure I'll have questions moving forward, but thank you so much for the presentation. Rick, do you have anything else you want to, like, next steps, anything you want to say?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Francisco, for that presentation. That was outstanding. So in terms of next steps, what we would do is add this back onto our agenda next month, Madam Chair. So it's the first time you've had a chance to really get an overview of what went into this process. So that'll give you more time with the document itself, which is, as you have seen, quite extensive. So we'll add it to our November agenda, and then we would take it from there. If that's okay with you, Madam Chair, that would be our recommendation.
Okay. So with that, thank you again. Greg, did you have anything else that you wanted to add before we moved on, or?
No, I think we've covered it all. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much again for the presentation, and
Sure.
it's
Thank you
very
for your time.
detailed. Thank you.
Okay, goodbye.
So, communications, any?
Nothing under communications, Madam Chair. And next up, we have community development update.
Yeah.
We have both of our co-acting directors, Mr. Summer, Mr. Dumay. I'll defer to Greg. Do you want to go first, or? Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Leavitt, and through you, Madam Chair. Just want to provide a brief update on some of the past month's activities in community development. So we did have a new hire in our building division. Very excited to welcome Chris Bouchard, who filled the vacancy as a building inspector. So he started in mid-September. And unfortunately, also at the same time, shortly after, had a resignation in the building division. So we thought we were going to be back at full staff, and unfortunately, we're back out looking for an additional vacancy as a building inspector. So the hunt continues, but some good news and some bad news, but moving forward. Center Master Plan, that project is advancing. Obviously, you heard quite a bit about that last month. We are moving to get that project out to bid before the end of the calendar year and awarded, as it is based on ARPA funding. So that project is advancing, working closely with Stantec on that. As far as some of the engineering division's ongoing Vision Zero efforts, we talked a little bit about the RFBs, the pedestrian warning lights. We're planning to do some more of those, hopefully this fall, and expand that out to probably another 10 to 15 locations. We'll be adding those throughout the community. A lot of those locations will be either ones we've received requests in the past. We've evaluated them based on pedestrian usage. It makes sense if they're near a park or a school. Looking to also enhance some locations where there are school crossing guards, but it's not necessarily a signalized intersection, more of a mid-block or maybe at an intersection with stop control. So, stop on the side street. So we'd be looking to enhance some of those locations. Also, some exciting news on our Safe Streets and Roads for All program. As you're probably aware, we did receive a second grant through that program. The first one being for a automated speed enforcement demonstration project. The second grant is a little bit larger, with the matching town match. It's almost $4 million, and that's really geared towards vulnerable users, looking at the pedestrians and the cyclists, and how we implement a lot of the action items that were identified through the Vision Zero action plan. So very excited to move forward with that project. That'll also include things like red light cameras, which I know has been asked about. So we'll be incorporating that, as well as safe routes to school. So there's a number of projects that we'll focus on with that grant funding. Again, it is a federal project program, so unfortunately, it does take a little bit of time to get that up and running, get an agreement in place with the US DOT. So we are working through that process now. And then once we've gotten the green light to proceed, we'll be jumping in on that project. Excuse me. Trout Brook Trail. So we've are nearing completion on our final phase for now. That's the section from Park Road down to Jackson that connects everything. So by the end of the month, we'll have a 3-mile long network, which has been in the works for quite some time, but we're excited to have advanced that and basically connected all the way from Asylum all the way down to New Park Avenue. So sure, based on the feedback we've heard from other sections, I imagine this will be very well received by the community, and we expect that the overall usage of the trail will even pick up that much more now that we have a continuous connection. Our roadway reconstruction program in our neighborhood streets is wrapping up. This year we've completed St. Augustine, Warwick, and Highland Street. The last one is Pleasant Street, which we're just waiting to do a final course of asphalt paving on. So we had some final utility issues we were working through. We're hoping to get that paved next week, and that will wrap up the program just in time, as it's obviously starting to cool off quite a bit outside. Roadway resurfacing, I won't go through the list, but there are a number of streets that we recently completed in our September and final round of resurfacing this year. I don't have the total mileage. I think it's probably right around 7 or 8 miles of roadways that we were able to pave this year. So that's pretty much on track with where we typically like to be. Our community connectivity grant, there was just a press release that went out last week. We received an award for almost $700,000. This is through the Community Connectivity Grant Program with the DOT. This is to improve our sidewalk accessibility, improve ramps at intersections, provide some connections for bus stops, and then also look at a couple of pieces of sidewalk. We're going to try and add connectivity and kind of connect some gaps that we have in our network. So primary focus is really on arterials and collector roadways, where we had either missing or lack of accessible sidewalk ramps, or maybe they just weren't up to the current code. We're going to prioritize those in high pedestrian zones where there's near schools or parks. So that's, again, that award is just about $700,000. Hoping to design that over the winter and then put that out to bid in the spring. And then a couple of exciting projects that we have going on. Park Road, our rehabilitation project. So that's moving forward. We have a public info meeting scheduled for later this month. This will be the first time to really engage with the community, find out a little bit more what they want to see in this area. This is the section from Quaker all the way down to Prospect. So a good long stretch of Park Road. As you'll recall, we did the road safety audit. Got some good feedback as far as safety improvements that we're also hoping to incorporate into that project. And again, we're looking to advance that design over the winter months and hopefully be into construction next year. New Park Avenue Complete Streets Improvement is the other exciting project that we have going on. This will incorporate a lot of the bicycle facility improvements that Deputy Mayor Winograd mentioned. So we do plan to provide some of the separated facilities with the raised curb sections or the pills. We'll have some of the green paint at the key crossways at driveways, and then ultimately it's a road diet on that street. So that project is moving forward. Hoping to be out to bid pretty soon with that, and then again that would be in construction next year. Woodrow Street traffic calming. This has kind of been going back and forth for a little while. We've been working with the neighborhood for probably a couple of years now. Kind of took a pause over the last few months, looking to re-engage with that neighborhood and hopefully come up with a solution and how we can reduce some of the volume and speed issues that they're contending with. So we'll be meeting with them later this month as well. And then lastly, just 2 DOT projects I wanted to mention. One is the Bishop's Corner intersection improvements. That's the main intersection of Albany and North Main Street. This is a DOT project. They're looking how to improve that intersection. And they actually have a public info meeting scheduled on October 22nd. So later this month, they'll be meeting with the public to present their concepts and certainly solicit input from the public. Construction's still a little ways off. There's a MDC water main project that'll have to happen first. So they're targeting 2027 for that project. So still plenty of time to to work through design and incorporate any improvements. They are looking at doing some bike facilities there as well, in the form of a kind of a side path, if you will, with wider sidewalks through that area. And then lastly, the New Britain Avenue road diet. This came up as part of the DOT's resurfacing of New Britain Avenue. This basically from the section, the paving was from Newington Road in West Hartford all the way to Newington Ave in Hartford. The road diet limits were from the Hartford line, basically, or the Hartford end of the project, all the way up to about South Street in West Hartford. So we did work closely with the DOT. It kind of came about a little last minute as they were working through that process, but I think overall it's been well received from the community, despite some initial concerns. Still working through that process with them and finalizing the striping, the layout, but it seems to be working fairly well. So we're pleased to see the DOT is moving forward and also working through some of these Vision Zero initiatives and safety improvements. With that, I'd like to, through you, Madam Chair, I'll turn it over to Mr. Dumais, our town planner, to go through any items on planning and zoning's list.
We're waiting. Oh, there you go.
Here he is.
You're on mute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have anything to add from the Planning and Zoning Division other than what's contained in the report.
Okay, are there any questions about anything that was in the report? Okay. Does anyone have any future agenda items? No? Mr. Cortez had to drop off just a little bit ago, so he is not here. Rick, is there anything else before?
No, appreciate your time this morning, everyone. And we look forward to seeing everyone again next month.
Okay, make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I guess I have to second it because we're the only two here. So
Yep.
I second that motion. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Good job.
Thank you.